Hello and welcome to Rolling with the Punches. Today we're here for UFC 259 post-fight show. I'm Bez.
I'm Quinn.
Without further ado, let's get into it. Before anything else, don't want spoilers. Again, go away, watch the card, then come back.
Don't know why you're here if you're like, this is post-show content.
Alright.
And my God, do we have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it was a decent show at that.
Start to finish, post-fight prelims and main card.
Yeah, man. If anything, the prelims, I know there was more riding on the main card, but I thought prelims were probably better than the main card, if anything. It was a really strong night of fights from top to bottom.
In terms of exciting fights, I would say the most exciting fights were on the prelims.
Yeah,
it was absolutely brutal. These guys.
The main card was bad, but yeah, the prelims were exceptionally good this week. So.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. That the guys in the prelims have something to prove. That Dana's watching, the people are watching. These are the up and comers we want to see in these main events now. I thought it was fantastic.
It's normally good news for the UFC as well when the prelims are good because they're the last free portion that the fans will see before deciding with the last people whether they want to buy the pay-per-view card or not. The prelims are fire than more likely than people to buy the main card. So yeah, good night around for the UFC last night for the most part. Right, let's talk about the main card.
Absolutely. So the main event was Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. I lost the pizza bet again.
Oh yes, yeah. Is he going out to challenge Jan for his light heavyweight belt? Sadly, he fell.
By a really stupid. Don't get me wrong. No, I believe the fight went to the champ.
The right man won.
The right man won. But the scoring for it was absolutely atrocious.
I kind of agree that Jan won 4 rounds to 1. The 49 I can agree with. What I don't think there was any 10-8s in there. Two judges gave a scorecard of 49-45, which means I scored a 10-8 round. I'm presuming the fifth one. I haven't seen the scorecards yet. And again, I think the third round went to Adesanya because it's the only one I could clearly see him winning.
I still say he either the first or the second you could have given him.
Potentially, they were close rounds, but Jan did outstrike him in every round of the fight. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't see where there was a 10-8 round in there, so it was given very lightly. I know towards the end of the fifth, I mean, maybe if there was another 15-20 seconds in the round, then maybe Jan would have finished him. He was pounding on him at the end, but again, talking about maybe 10 seconds of ground.
A 10-8 is someone getting there. It's getting an ass whooping. You're going out there and you're getting beat up.
Granted, Jan spent half the round in top control, but he didn't really do any real damage with it. Like I say, up until the last kind of maybe 10 seconds of the fight.
And Adesanya looked fresh after the fight as well. Out of the two, Jan definitely looked more tired.
I mean, my only regret with that fight really is that, yes, he came out looking fresh, but to me, he didn't really go for it. Towards the end of the fight, he must have known, especially after that fourth round where he got control for 3 minutes of the round. He must have known he was at the very least even in that fight.
I mean, you could see clearly what he was trying to. He was trying to get a reaction out of him for the whole fight.
I'm just surprised he didn't come out more aggressively in the fifth. Against Gastelum, it was another one where it was a very close fight, probably 2 leading into the final round there. And Izzy came out, showed why he's champ, and absolutely dominated Gastelum in that fifth round. That was a much tougher fight than the Jan Blachowicz one for him as well. So it did surprise me how pedestrian Izzy took it in the fifth. And his ground game, as much as he's been talking this week about his purple belt and how he wants to get his first submission victory and all that jazz. He kind of looked out of ideas on the mat. Yeah, he weren't getting embarrassed and bullied, but he had no plan as how to
Defensively, he was okay. He wasn't taking shots. He wasn't really getting
anything of any meaning. No, I mean, you saw his face after the fight. He didn't look very fresh still. I agree.
But yeah, he didn't really know how to make a move from where he was, and that was a big problem.
The size made a difference as well. I think it wasn't the only factor. I feel like if they were both the same size, Jan still had enough grappling experience to kind of do what he wanted with Izzy. But it's laid a lot easier by the extra sort of 20 or so pounds Jan had on him. He was able to just pretty much lay on him.
But in middleweight, we've seen quite well. We've seen easily that his takedown defense is superb.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really played a part in it, but it has at this weight level. I think weight, no matter how much he doesn't want to say it, weight played a very, very big part in this.
Definitely.
He was a bigger guy. When he was on top of him, you couldn't even see Izzy.
There was somewhere in the region of 20 to 30 pounds between them on fight night. I know they both weighed in at a similar weight, but the fact is he came in at 200.5 means it's probably what he's walking around at. Whereas Jan's cut down to 205, likely from about 20 pounds above it, which would be rehydrated the day after. So yeah, that size difference did make a big. It seems to make all the difference on the mat. I think it just goes to show that John Jones is probably right. Instead of you're going to move up a weight class, it's probably worth bulking up a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't work out for Izzy on this occasion, but to be fair, he took the loss.
But his speed was impressive. We can't deny, like, what he was doing was impressive.
Well, I mean, he didn't really look any different than he would at middleweight in terms of how he fought. He probably came in weighing the same as he would at a middleweight fight. So I think 200 pounds is pretty much his natural weight. So I mean, it wasn't surprising that his speed was there. People always expected him to have the speed advantage, I think. His shots didn't really seem to have the same effect on Jan at light heavyweight as they would do. So when we saw what he did to Costa, another big strong dude.
Yeah.
But Jan's a natural light heavyweight, and it goes to show there's one of the reasons they're wide weight classes. I think Izzy will be back. He took the loss on the chin like a champ.
No, couldn't have been more modest. Fair play to him.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, I personally think we're going to see a situation here. He's going to come back more vicious. I think the next person who fights him in middleweight is going to really, really regret it afterwards.
He'll need to take a few months off.
Yeah.
Because whether he looked fresh or not, he took a lot of heavy shots last night. It was a hard fight. Leave it 6 months. There's a couple of interesting fights booked at the top of the middleweight division soon anyway. Darren Till's fighting Marvin Vettori. And then
He says he wants to make the Till fight happen. Like, he wants the Till fight.
Yeah.
So
the trouble is, I think if Whittaker does beat Costa, that put him on a 3-fight win streak of his own with wins over Darren Till and Paulo Costa. I think it'd be hard to make the case that Whittaker shouldn't get that rematch there.
Yeah.
No, the first fight wasn't close, but realistically, he will be the next guy in the division.
Yeah, no, clearly, and I've got no problem seeing that because again, it will
maybe
be
even Vettori. I mean, if Vettori does something special against Till, he's another guy that Izzy hasn't fought. Oh, sorry, he has fought. Izzy fought him on the way up, long before any of them had sort of title aspirations. Split decision, very close fight. It's the last time we saw Izzy have real problems with wrestling. To be honest, the last time he fought Vettori. So probably would be more interested in that match than the Whittaker match. I think if Costa should win and Vettori should win, Vettori will probably end up getting the shot. A few moving parts there.
I mean,
the only fight we can guarantee won't happen is the Costa Adesanya rematch. If Costa should beat Whittaker, I don't see that fight getting run back anytime soon.
There's a clear winner in Costa.
Costa needs another couple more wins, same as Whittaker had to.
Yeah.
Whittaker's had to win what will be 3 fights should he get past Costa to get his rematch. And I think that's fair enough. He's maybe shown a bit more improvement then. But a rematch after 1 or 2 fights against Paulo Costa after the way that went down, not a chance.
And more to the point now, who's Jan going to be fighting next?
Well, I mean, light heavyweight is interesting at the top as well. You've got Malamud Ankalaev, picked up a big win last weekend. I'm trying to think who's at the top of that. Put up the rankings on there quickly if you could.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I mean, he's already beat Dominic Reyes. Alexander Rakic picked up a good win tonight against Thiago Santos. Wasn't a flashy performance. But he would be, I would imagine, that'll probably put him at number 2 in the division. Jiri Prochazka is fighting soon. I think he's fighting Dominic Reyes, actually.
Glover's going to be next,
Glover
really.
Teixeira, of course. The guy I forgot. He was standing in it. He was the stand-in for this fight. He made weight. Yeah, he should be the next guy in line, I suppose.
Because Reyes is, he ain't getting a rematch. Come on, man.
I mean, Glover's got heavy hands, but as I say, he's 40. I don't know. I'm not that interested in seeing him get the belt. It'd be a nice story for him to finish his career like it, but he's very much.
I mean, Rakic's fight was only. We'll get to that, but I mean that I don't know if that was worthy of.
No, but as I say, I think that probably fell up to number 2 in the division. Yeah, I mean, Glover. It's not like he has no chance against Jan Blachowicz. He's got a very good ground game of his own. He's always extremely improved wrestling against Thiago Santos. See, I mean, that fight, to be honest, it'll probably be far closer than the Izzy fight. I don't know why I'm disparaging it. I'm just not that interested in seeing 2 old blokes go. I'm kind of like Blachowicz having the title. It's a nice change after so many years of John Jones having it to see a bit of interest at the top. So I'd like to see some of these young competitors get a chance maybe than someone like a Glover Teixeira. But if he can do it, fair play to him. He turned up and did what he had to do for this fight. He made the weight, so I suppose he is the next guy in line.
Yeah, I agree. Well, on to the co-main event for the evening. Really, I mean...
It's probably as brief as the fight was. Cause
when you talk about female fighters, right, there's no other person that should be going into your head apart from Amanda Nunes. This woman showed last night exactly why she's the double champ.
I don't think really you have to have her in the category of best women fighters. I mean, the way she is clearly that. I think she's probably in the top 2 or 3 in the whole of MMA, regardless of gender.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
After Khabib and John Jones, I think Nunes has got to be right there. He's one of the top stars.
No, that's pretty good.
One of the top talents in the whole of MMA. She made short work of Megan Anderson, tapping her by armbar just over 2 minutes into the
first round, 2 minutes 3 seconds, armbar. I mean, Megan came out and was almost. I was like, okay, maybe she might actually be able. Like, there was a lot of pressure to start off with.
Sort of, she showed good evasion.
Yeah.
She looked like maybe she'd try and use her length to make it a kickboxing match early on.
But Nunes' heavy hands were hitting. Like, she is a monster.
Yeah, I think Nunes, as soon as she done that first strike, she saw Megan didn't react well to it and just ploughed on from there. I think she would have knocked her out on the feet had Megan Anderson not established an ill-advised takedown, and then from there she got thoroughly embarrassed on the mat and tapped 20 seconds later. And another dominant performance from Anderson, from Nunes. Sorry, not that we were expecting anything less.
No, I mean, when you see her on a card, I'm like, well, she's going to win. That's it. Whoever she's fighting, she's going to beat.
What's your thoughts on the future of the division? Apart from Norma Dumont, I think she's beat everybody that fights at 145.
You're right, and if anything's to go by, I mean, Dana said as long as Nunes wants to carry on defending the title, that division's going to exist.
Essentially said he's going to wrap it up when she retires.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's how it's going to go.
It's the Nunes division.
So let's get some new talent in. Let's see. Let's wait and see, because Nunes also, she's got another defense. She's got another title to defend, and she can only fight so many times.
Yeah,
in a
she
year.
has expressed desire to go back down to bantamweight and defend that belt. And to be honest, I think the scene back down there is probably more interesting than the featherweight one. As I say, Juliana Pena is fighting Holly Holm soon. If she picks up a win there, you got to think she'll probably be next in line.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Kunitskaya waiting in the wings down there.
I want to see what Kunitskaya does, because again, she had a very impressive win a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think she's been judged a bit roughly. She came in against Cyborg on short notice at featherweight, got absolutely mauled, and you kind of, once you got that image in your head, it's harder to take a fighter seriously. But down at bantamweight, she looks a completely different prospect. Not been all easy going, but she has shown massive improvement, kind of fight to fight. So I think she could be a contender in the future, but I just can't see it being Nunes. No. That's not to say she shouldn't go for him. And Nunes, I don't think, is going to be around all that much longer.
No, she isn't.
Granted, if she can keep picking up easy paydays like this, she might as well fight forever. But I think with her new family and stuff, there'll come a time where she's kind of.
She said in her post-fight, like, she's a proud mama lion now. Like,
she thinks she's now more dangerous. She's a worrying prospect
which is a very
for any lady who weighs 135 and up.
That woman's there to feed her baby now. Like, she's got a legitimate reason to win now, not just for title defenses. Like, that's scary.
There's nothing much more to say about the fight. As I say, it's a whitewash from start to finish.
No, fantastic armbar by Nunes. Again, great performance.
The armbar was slick. Like I said, had Anderson tapping frantically. She also had a triangle locked in with her legs as well, so it was trying to pick your poison.
It was devastating. But again, we kind of called it.
It showed there's levels to the game, and Nunes is on a different one from everyone else at the moment.
You don't get GOAT status for nothing. Like, she truly is.
She came out the fight looking like she could fight next weekend. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully it won't be too long before we get her back in the cage, but we'll see. She's got a family, she's got a wife, she wants to take a bit of time off, and I'm not going to knock her for it. Next fight.
Controversial.
This one was interesting. It's a brand new thing for the UFC.
If you haven't seen it, it was the first ever champion being made champion by disqualification.
Yes.
Peter Yan gave a very illegal knee to Aljamain Sterling in the fourth round. Fourth round.
In a fight he was winning at the time.
Now,
so frustrating for him. Aljamain Sterling becoming a new champion there, as Quinn said, by disqualification. He's clearly unable to continue after that knee. There's been sort of mutterings online that it was an acting performance from Sterling and he wasn't really hurt. I say if you go back and look at it, look at the body language, he looked out of it, man.
Aljamain had a fantastic first 2 rounds. I'd say maybe round and a half.
Yeah, I think first round we probably won just on pressure. Although Yan did have the more impactful strikes in the round. He dropped Sterling once or twice, at least once.
Yeah, and I got to hand it to Yan, man. His defense is impeccable.
I was not expecting. I think by the time the fight was stopped, Yan had stuffed 14 of Sterling's 15 takedown attempts. He wasn't having none of it, and conversely, he had taken Yan down over 10 times. Taken Sterling down over 10 times, with various trips and judo throws.
And it's not like Aljamain Sterling's a bitch on the floor. Like, we've seen what
he wasn't giving up either. I mean, actually on the feet, it was reasonably even. It's just again, Yan's defense is so much better, and his strikes were that much more impactful.
Yeah.
Sterling still had the pressure there, but he looked like he was tiring out.
Yes,
the moment the fight was stopped, he was up on 2 of the judges' scorecards. So had it continued down that vein, you can only assume he would have ended up winning by decision.
Yeah.
He certainly started to take over in the 4th round.
But that's not how you want to win a title. And
No, I mean, Sterling said as well, as soon as he got the belt on him, he took it off and threw it on the floor. Gave a very disappointing interview to Joe Rogan. And you could only assume they're going to rematch that one.
Yeah, they're going to run it back. I think Dana's already said in post-fight press conference that they're going to run it back. They both want it.
I mean,
They have
Yan,
to
to
make
his
it.
credit, he's already gone on Instagram and apologised to Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah.
Accepted that he made the mistake and it was his fault.
And it's quite interesting
It's
because we
such
hear...
a shame. Another inch off the floor, that would have been a beautiful knee that probably would have ended the fight.
Yeah, but
he
we
should have
hear-
just waited.
But we hear that it's from the... Actually, he got bad advice from his corner.
Yeah.
Telling him to throw that knee... Now, is that the corner not being able to see properly? Does that mean we need new cameras around the ring
corner
so that
can't
they can see?
properly.
I mean, do we need to address that? Is that something that needs to be addressed in the UFC?
The thing is, there is the referee had clearly told him that Sterling was a downed opponent just before he threw the knee. So regardless of what the corner says, listen to the man in the cage. Man in the cage is telling you it's illegal. Don't throw the strike. So I've got limited sympathy for Yan there. It's just, as I say, it's got to be hella frustrating for him because he was easily winning that fight up until that point.
Yeah, which goes to the reason why did you do it? Why did you knew it was an illegal knee? You knew he was down.
I don't think he did. I think he was relying on the advice of his corner, which is stupid. He should, as I say, should have waited until he was clearly reminded himself that he could see it wasn't a grounded opponent and just throwing the knee. It would have taken an extra couple of seconds. Sterling wasn't really doing anything at that point. So, yeah, it's ridiculous from Yan. A very disappointing way to end that fight because that up until that point, there probably would have been fight of the night. It was very back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably the one I was most excited for, really, in terms of what was going to happen.
Fights,
it was. I was really thinking this was going to be
fight. For me, that was the hardest one to call. If I had to pick, Yan was my choice. And as I said, I think if the fight had played out, he probably did show he was the better man and would have won. But Sterling need a bit of time to recover from what looked like. Although actually, Dana White said he's been to the hospital and wasn't assessed with concussion or anything, so he might be all right. Hopefully they can run that one back as soon as possible.
Yeah,
that was
6
not
months.
A definitive way.
6 months, I'd say we get that fight again.
Yeah, and Jan's not going to. Sterling's not going to keep the belt under those circumstances either. After the way he's had to get there in the first place, he's taken a few knocks and stumbles, and this does represent his kind of life's ambition. So I think he's going to want to run it back too.
Yeah.
So personally, can't wait to see it again, and let's just hope both men can keep it clean this time.
No, I hope so. In the 4th fight, the second fight of the evening, we should have said, sorry. With the 4th one, we're talking about the second one of the main card. Islam versus Drew, that was a third round.
Versus Drew Doby, yeah. It's third round submission there.
Third round arm triangle, yes. I mean...
This is straight domination from Makhachev.
Yeah, I mean, there was no way that Drew was winning that fight at all.
But again, it was kind of expected. I mean, I know Joe Rogan, he's just made some weird comments on commentary last night. Probably the weirdest one for me that he said Drew Doby was the most underrated man in MMA, which I completely disagree with. I think there's a reason he's not ranked and it got shown last night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Impressive victory for Makhachev, as I say. He did what he wanted with Doby on the mat. But again, it's nothing. Didn't tell us anything we don't know about him. Great, he's beating these unranked guys easily, looking like he should get a top 10 guy. So
and he should.
I don't know if it's his
fault.
Not. I think a lot of people do turn down fights against him. I'm not blaming Makhachev for not taking top ranked fights, but for me, it's a bit like Michael Venom Page over in Bellator.
Yeah,
looks incredible against all these unranked bums, and I want to see what he does against someone who is in the top 5. So yeah, I'm hoping he gets a bigger number next to his name. Because I think he went into the fight ranked 14th.
Hopefully, if he gets put in within the top 10, he's then got that.
He called out Tony Ferguson. It should be a great fight. I mean, we never got the Tony and Khabib fight, so Khabib sends his youngling along to see whether he can beat Ferguson. I don't know if it's the best timing for it in terms of Ferguson.
I mean, who else is Ferguson going to fight though?
I just don't know if he's going to want to take that step down and B, take that risk. I mean, Islam hasn't really got that much of name value behind him other than being associated with Khabib.
Which is a big... I mean, you're literally being trained by who is still the current lightweight champion.
I think last night would have helped him. He was on the main card of a big pay-per-view. Had the most dominant performance on the card, with the exception of Nunes. So yeah, I think more people will get to know, but...
Why can't Dana?
I'm hoping he gets someone in the top 10.
Why can't Dana let Khabib go? Even in his post conference, like, oh yeah, we're having dinner, we're gonna talk.
Yeah.
Like, dude, vacate that belt. lightweight needs a title shot now. Like,
well, interestingly, they've now taken his. They haven't stripped the belt of him or anything, and taken out the rankings, but they have stopped including him in the longest active win streaks at lightweight. They're now saying Oliveira's win streak of 8 is the longest active win streak at lightweight. Makachev just behind him.
Well, that belt, that we need a title fight, don't we?
So they're not counting Khabib as active. You've got to say, why has the belt not been taken?
Yeah.
I think they're waiting to see what gets booked between Poirier and Conor.
They're not going to make. I mean,
Chandler.
Arguably, their rematch should have been for the title. Arguably, that should have been a title fight.
There's 5-6 guys up the top there that need booking, and I think once those have been played out, one of those will end up having a title associated with them. Whether it's Gaethje or Chandler, Oliveira.
Why would you not put it for Poirier and then do Poirier Chandler?
Because Poirier wants that rematch with McGregor, and it'd be hard to justify putting McGregor in a title fight.
Well, because maybe for the simple fact that we already know that Poirier probably is the best in the lightweight in the division at the moment.
Yeah, but he's also got the spectre of being thoroughly shellacked by Khabib.
But then everyone's been thoroughly shellacked by Khabib. I mean, like
Oliveira and Chandler haven't. Not to say that they wouldn't do.
Yeah,
I'm not advocating that either of them would beat Khabib. My point is, like, that's to me, that's the only title fight that would have any legitimacy to it, because neither of them have been embarrassed by Khabib.
Well, yeah.
Gaethje, Poirier, and Conor, Khabib's last 3 victories all got finished.
No, I mean, but they got finished by the GOAT. They got finished by the best pound for pound fighter ever.
Fine, but you can't then slap a belt on one of them and say this is the best lightweight.
Well, this is the second best, pretty much. Like, and that's, I mean, that's.
But Oliveira or Chandler could make a case that they were the best lightweight. They haven't been beaten by Khabib. That'd probably be the best way to tempt him back, to be honest, is get a belt on someone who's not already smashed up.
Yeah, no, and I agree.
Not that I think he will come back, but I think that's much more likely to tempt him back than a rematch with Poirier or McGregor or something.
No, and don't get me wrong. I mean, Chandler in the title fight. I want to see it. Of course, I do. We've only seen him fight once in the UFC.
I feel like he could do with another win. For me, they should have booked that Chandler and Gaethje fight fairly quickly after his last appearance. He got out of it looking fresh anyway.
Which I haven't heard anything about. I mean, I don't know about you. I haven't heard anything about Chandler being booked for another fight yet.
There's been whispers, but no, nothing solid yet.
And that's weird. And that's weird. After such a dominating victory.
They're rumoured making a fight against Tony Ferguson, which I thought was ridiculous. I hope that's got no base in fact.
I hope not, because again, that is just Chandler going to go out there and one flop Tony Ferguson. I mean,
Chandler versus Oliveira or Gaethje would make sense to me. Any combination of those 3 has to fight, and I think the other
Oliveira, I would say perfectly, because then, you know, next up, give him the title shot. Chandler's just had debuted. He's just one flopped. But he won one flop. Sorry.
Dan Hooker.
Hooker, not Booker. Well, I was thinking, why did I think of Booker? Hooker, he literally absolutely decimated him.
Yeah.
But he has just debuted. But if you put him against someone like Oliveira and he wins, damn straight give him a title shot. Why not?
Don't get me wrong, he's done bits in other organisations. For me, beating Dan Hooker doesn't warrant a title shot. So for me, I would like to see him pick up another victory in the UFC. But equally, you don't want to take it too long with him. He's 34 already. You're paying a fair bit of money to get him in, one would assume, or he wouldn't have signed with the UFC.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they should get him booked and quickly. I was surprised they left him sitting around so long after he was standby for the Khabib and Gaethje fight.
Yeah.
I thought they'd have him fighting in the next couple of weeks then, but never mind. But yeah, hopefully we see him back in the cage soon and get a bit of clarity at the top of that lightweight picture. And I think Makachev has probably put himself right in the midst of it. If he could pick up another convincing win against a Ferguson, or I think Gaethje might be a bit of an ask for him right now. And you've got Paul Felder, Kevin Lee.
Anyone in the top 10 he needs.
Benel Dariush, I think he's already fought him. I might be wrong about that. That'd be another good fight. But yeah, it was an impressive victory for Makachev and a bit of a disappointing showing from Deva. But I mean, it was a win-win for Deva anyway. If he'd done well and won, he would have told himself right at the lightweight rankings. He did what was expected and lost, so there's nothing lost there for him really. I don't think his stock won't taking that too big a hit. No. It's just a shame his win streak snapped. Right, so it's the opening fight.
The opening fight of the night, Rakic versus Santos. Probably the most, and I don't like to say a fight is disappointing, because it's always nice to see.
For me, I was expecting that to be the craziest fight of the night. I specifically said before it started, go on lads, let's wake up a bit. God, it's going to be a right firefight this one. You watch it. Never happened. It turned into a slow place kind of point fight from Rakic. Santos, for his part, never did anything. That knee injury. I think he had major knee problems against John Jones. I think he's lost 3 on the bout since coming, or 2 on the bout, since coming back.
He didn't look right.
No,
he didn't.
No. He got mauled by Glover Teixeira, wrestled to bits, which is not something I expected, to be honest. I mean, as I say, Glover's got a good ground game, but someone of Tiantos's size.
But his
Thiago
movement
Santos'
was
size.
whack. It was how he was moving was robotic.
Yeah.
It did not look normal.
No, he didn't, and he didn't really look as aggressive. And so there was flashes of it in the third round. But yeah, for whatever reason, he looked timid. He looked slow. It just didn't. It looked like a shell of him. It didn't look like Santos fighting. And Rakic didn't really make him do anything faster.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to the Garnet and Lewis, not Garnet Lewis, Garnet Rosenstruck fight last week. Garnet was doing just enough to win. Same with Rakic in this fight. Thiago Santos wasn't giving him any reason to push the pace any further, so he didn't. He kind of stayed on the outside, had a few good kicks. That's pretty much it. Very low output fight. It
was
a bit of a snoozer. I was really
considering
surprised.
how fantastic and like a screamer the prelims were. Having that being the first fight in the main card, disappointing.
Bit of a lead balloon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, for Rakic, he's back on the win streak.
Which is
Adesanya
fine.
He's probably going to get up to number maybe 2 or 3 in the division.
Which is absolutely fine. But I mean, again, it was just like, what do you do after that? Like,
you need to show
do
the
much.
fans a bit more if you want to get any real support behind for a title shot, I think. I mean, I know it should be done on merit, not just on fan support, but realistically, the way the UFC books fights, you need to try and be a bit entertaining as well, or at least have some groundswell behind you.
These people who do show off, who who really go out there, your Conor McGregor, your Adesanya, these people make money for the UFC, and that's what they want as well, and that's what you've got to think as a fighter.
I think the thing is, it's just like, he's not. If he was a completely dominant fighter and he wasn't the flashiest, then fine, no one's going to mind about that. I mean, George St. Pierre was never a majorly flashy fighter, and he's one of the most famous people the UFC's ever had fighting for him. One of the best fighters that's ever fought for him. Rakic just doesn't seem to. He does just enough to win, and that's that. And it looks like he's got more in the tank, which is the frustrating thing. But again, like I say, it puts him on a win streak. I think he puts him at 5-1 or 6-1 in the UFC now. I can only assume, as I say, he's going to be fighting for a belt before long. I just think this way he's probably going to have to win another fight to do it. Not a lot more to say about that.
No, a quite boring fight.
Then feel free to skip it.
I mean the prelim. I mean, we could talk briefly on Cruz Kenny. I mean,
I think the most interesting bit of that fight was the call out at the end, which we won't go into too much. Weirdly, he was given a post-fight call out and he wanted to fight some guy who works for Monster, which is a strange one. But it's Dominic Cruz coming back.
What's his
Hans
name?
Molen.
Hans Molen,
he's someone who works for one of the UFC sponsors. He's apparently a bit sort of flashy and puts himself about on Instagram and stuff. But,
I mean,
the UFC clearly weren't happy about it because they pulled him off air halfway through giving his post-fight speech. Which is going to cut a sponsor off live on air is not surprising. It's a shame for Cruz actually, because it was good to see him back in the win column. He's not won in the UFC I think since 2016, 2017.
It was quite straight. I mean, it was quite an even fight for a lot of that as well. Surprisingly, I mean, I genuinely thought Cruz was going to come out and actually decimate that.
I wouldn't say it was particularly even for large patches of it. Cruz was clearly in the lead, particularly in the first and the third round. I thought 2-1 Cruz was the right result. It was a split decision. One guy gave the 2-1 to Kenny, which I didn't really see a case for personally. Either way, Cruz getting back in the win column. I can only assume he's not really got title aspirations now because he didn't call out anyone in the division. If nothing else, it's nice to see him back. He does look like he's lost a step or two of pace. And I hadn't realised in all these years he's been fighting in the UFC for I think 8 or 9 years now. It was 10 years to the day yesterday since he won his bantamweight title in WEC, which is a division promotion that UFC eventually swallowed. In all those years, he's had 8 fights. His record in the UFC now stands at 6-2, which I found crazy for someone who's someone who's the bantamweight goat to have only had 6 fights or 8 fights in the last 8 years.
I can't see how you get goat status.
He's just wasted so much of his career. I think he's had cumulatively probably about 5 or 6 years worth of injuries off, which just not been able to fight. His style's unique, but it does seem to mash his knees up.
Yeah, I mean that's not really doesn't really make you the greatest of all time, really, does it? If your style fucks you up, I mean you can't really be the best.
On his day, he was very hard to beat.
And that's fine.
I think Garbrandt beat him in what actually was a closer fight than a lot of people remember. He did lose that fight, but he was certainly competitive. Against Cejudo, he lost quickly, but he got swarmed, and I don't think actually got stopped that fight. Whether he would have won or not is another matter. But he's it's not like he's been definitively losing to sort of lower down the rank people. He only loses to the best of the best. So I think it wasn't surprising here to see him beat Casey Kenny. Yeah, it was an interesting fight. It was a good fight, and I think if nothing else, Kenny's stock's probably risen. He did go toe to toe with as I say, the consensus best bantamweight of all time. He showed he belonged to be in there.
Yeah.
So be excited to see what they do with Kenny next.
No, definitely.
Yeah, we won't run through too much. The rest of the card is a long old fight card last night. It's 15 fights in it.
I mean, a few honourable mentions. I mean, Cara Francis' first round.
Wild round,
knockout.
yeah.
Wow.
Rogerio
really good.
Bontorin threatened with submissions for 4.5 minutes of that fight. In the last 17 seconds, Cara France worked his way back to the feet, and then it's
My
a
God.
Hunt style walk-off knockout.
He had not landed a
You
single
don't see
punch.
it too often at flyweight. Bit of confusion at the end of it. He wasn't sure whether Herb Dean had stopped the fight. So sort of circled around the cage cheering. Looked back at his opponent and went to come and drop another hammer fist, which
Bang!
Dean stopped.
But yeah.
Drew the ire of Rogerio Bontorin. He threw his mouth guard across the cage at Cara France, who luckily didn't notice, and it was all fine afterwards.
And Sean Brady's arm triangle, absolutely lovely as well.
Yeah, stopping Jake Matthews' win streak there. I think it was Sean Brady up to 14-0 in MMA. It's another product of Dana White's Contender Series.
And showing what that Contender Series can do. Like, these guys coming in are fantastic.
Yeah, he looked thoroughly dominant. I mean, on the feet, there was not too much of a disparity, but as soon as they got down to the mat, it was, although they're both black belts, it was clear whose was superior.
I mean, we've got
Sean
Contender
Brady
Series
just
coming
in
back, I
complete
believe, haven't we
control.
soon?
Still running, I think. Actually, I'm not sure if it is on at the moment.
No, because they film it in the Apex. Obviously, they're doing everything in the Apex.
Of course, yeah, and I suppose actually trying to do Contender Series with bubbles and stuff would be hard. Yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder if are we going to cover Contender when it comes back?
I mean, probably not do it all the time. You end up talking about the prospects when they actually come into the UFC, which is kind of what I find more interesting anyway. Seeing them when they're on the Contender Series, it's hard to sort of ascertain the level of who it is they're fighting against.
I suppose so, yeah.
But no, great victory for Sean Brady. We're going to see what he gets next. You can only assume in the welterweight division he's probably going to get his number next to his name for that.
I should hope so. It was a great win.
Certainly get a ranked fighter out of it. So excellent win for him. Askar Askarov also beating Joseph Benavidez on the prelims. Again, quite a dominant performance from Askarov. He did miss weight, granted only by a pound, but he did miss weight.
Yeah.
So it took the shine off the victory for him somewhat. Not great look for Joseph Benavidez, to be honest, and being probably the second base bantamweight for the period over the last 10 years. Flyweight for a period of the last 10 years or so. He's now been thoroughly destroyed in his last 3 fights. Cesar Figueiredo, and now to Askarov. Again, he's losing to high-level guys. Askarov is probably going to be fighting for a title after Brandon Moreno, especially after a performance like that. It's just, I think for me, Benavidez probably coming to the stage where he's going to have to hang up his gloves.
Yeah.
He's got. I mean, it's not like he couldn't go into punditry or something if he wanted to. I believe he's a coach at his local gym anyway. So yeah, I think I'm not that interested in seeing Benavidez come back and fight again. He's had a great career, but for me, it's just kind of time to notice when it's up and call it quits.
Yeah.
Maybe someone in his team needs to talk to him, or Dana will make the decision for him.
Well, they've been making cuts. They've been making some weird cuts at the moment.
Which is something actually we didn't mention yesterday. There's been reams and reams of cuts, so not like you're sort of mentioned him every week. Not all of them are higher level name fighters we necessarily recognise anyway. But this week they cut Alistair Overeem and Junior Dos Santos.
Wow.
2 ranked heavyweights, one of who is a former champion. Obviously Overeem champs in other organisations, never quite got that UFC gold, although he did challenge for it. Were you surprised to see him go?
Absolutely. I saw him fighting.
Lewis
wanted that fight. Derek Lewis wanted the Overeem fight. Why not?
I didn't agree with, but yeah, it's not like his name wasn't relevant.
No, not at all. I mean, it would have been a fun fight for Lewis anyway. Again, he wanted the fight. Give him the fight.
And I think Overeem, although he has taken, I mean, he's been knocked out, I think, 15 or 16 times over the course of his career now, which isn't good for his health. But he's still kind of up there. I think he was ranked 7th at the time he was cut. And
I don't think anyone in the top 10 should be getting cut.
I mean, that fight against Volkov, I mean, that's another story. UFC have done that a lot recently. I mean, Yoel Romero lost his last fight to Israel Adesanya and then got cut after fighting for a belt. So, yeah, there's been a lot like that. But yeah, for me, Overeem, it was strange. I think the beating he took against Volkov was not a good look for him. And if he was to be believed, he's on a very high-paid contract. Which I think does affect the decisions in things like this. If you're too expensive for the UFC to pay without providing a lot of upside, I'll just cut you and get these Contender Series guys in.
Yep.
It's a very good feeder for Dana. He can pay them essentially sod all, especially certainly not what they're worth. So I think it speaks to the wider symptom of the UFC there. They do seem to be going for cheap kind of mass talent rather than keeping hold of the better known and higher paid guys, shall we say. But that being said, I mean, they are clearly on the downturn of their careers, both coming off losses. JDS obviously been knocked out recently by both Rosenstruik and Cyril Garm. So in that sense, it's not entirely surprising. I can see why they were kind of... But I'm just surprised they weren't allowed to go under their own terms. It used to be the case with the UFC that you'd get a quiet word from Dana and you'd be allowed to kind of make your own choice. Maybe you go stay on a job within the company or go and work for one of the networks. You come under your own steam. It's just straight heartless. Right. I think Junior Dos Santos said he found out over Twitter. I think he wasn't even told by the UFC had been cut.
That's insane. Imagine that. That's just like imagine getting fired. It's like getting fired by a text.
For service as well. I mean, JDS and Overeem have both got combat sports careers collectively over 40 years between them. I do find it a bit odd that they've done it at that notice, especially with someone like a former champion like JDS without making a proper statement or anything about it. But they've never really valued their staff, if nothing else. Although they're not staff, they're independent contractors, so you can't do anything they want. Again, that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two high-profile cuts this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if Joseph Benavidez ends up adding to that list soon.
Wouldn't surprise me.
He might decide in his own record he wants to retire. We'll see. We should wait for news.
Yeah.
So next week we are back, I think, is it Edwards versus Muhammad?
It is indeed, our boy Edwards.
Yeah.
Fighting a very weird fight, but...
Yeah, it's another one I wasn't expecting to get booked. But as I say, we'll talk all about that next Saturday. Should be a key match at the top of the welterweight division there. Winner could possibly going on for a title fight, because Usman's kind of clearing out the rest of the top of that division as it is.
I think Edwards could give him a run for his money.
See if Edwards could get onto a 9-fight win streak, or whether Bilal, remember the name Muhammad, will in fact make everyone remember his name. But join us next Saturday for that. We drop every Saturday about kind of 2-3 o'clock, and we'd love to see you there. Let us know any thoughts you had about the fight card down in the comments there. Let us know whether you agree, disagree, anything in between. If you like the channel, guys, hit the like and subscribe button and hit the bell icon for more notifications of when the episodes drop. We also do a few things with gaming as well. We've got a fighting game.
Oh yes, we do. Fighting around the world.
Very other genres. But love to go to the channel, check that out. We've got a few more playlists as well on those. Other than that, we'll see you next week, guys. Peace.